Give it a second to load here. Make sure I can hear. Test. Make sure. Test. Alright, cool. The mic is there. Good evening. I hope my 2 ears are very well. Did a little bit of a change of scenery. Had to change it up a little bit. But I like it. Hi. So, to start off tonight, I have a reading that I just pulled that feels pretty strong for possibly a few people. But beyond that, I can do some pulls as well. So let me get through this reading, and if there's anything further that anyone wants to talk about or get guidance about, then we can talk about that. So, hi, Starry Crisis. Thank you, Fuzzy Buzzy, as well, for joining in. I appreciate you stopping by. I just started doing these streams like 2 weeks ago. I've been streaming on another channel, not myself, so this is my other thing that I do, and I wanted to start streaming to do this as well. So I'm going to be doing a reading for tonight, and that feels pretty much like the next week or so worth of energy. Some things happening in the next 7 to 10 days or so. That's the forecast we're looking at with this reading. Reading with the Starman deck again for a little bit more life pathy depth in the reading itself, because it seems like there's some major shifts and changes that people are wanting to be taking place, and sometimes things aren't quite going along the time frame that we want them to be going on. So we're starting off tonight in the foundation position, in the earth roll, where we're grounded at. We're just kind of, it's going to kind of show up a little bit messy, but that's the 8 of Cups. We're seeking answers with this card, sitting in a position where we're not quite fully aware of what we're supposed to be doing in detail. Like maybe we have some general idea of what's supposed to be happening, but we're not quite aligned with exactly what it is that we need. So we're seeking these answers, but we're not actually allowing the space that we need to be allowing. This card is saying like you might be in intent, you're intending to get the answers by taking time to do the internal processes and the kind of like free-form thinking, meditation, but you're not actually putting yourself in a position outside of your norm and comfort zone in order to do this. And this is what it's actually saying we really need to be doing. We're not quite going far enough. We're just kind of right inside of our little box, and like, this is what I'm okay with doing to try to find the answers. And that is not going to find the answers. We're going to continue doing the same thing over and over again. We need to step outside of our comfort zone, do something different. Stop doing the same thing. Stop going to the same spot you have to try something new. And not only do you have to try it new, but you actually have to go with the intent of giving yourself some sacred space and time to desensitize from the day to day, disconnect from everything that comes at you constantly. So it takes a while. It's not immediate. You're not going to go out there and 10 minutes later you feel better. I mean, you're going to feel better after 10 minutes of being outside, but that's not enough to get what we need to be doing. So we actually need to step outside our comfort zone. We're focused on nature because we want to get to where we're disconnecting and regrounding ourselves. And in order to do that, we need to be more connected with nature, or at least away from digital devices as much as possible. And what's going to happen here is your senses are going to be heightened. Your intuition is going to get stronger in this time frame as you make this sacred space, and that's where you're going to start seeing the little details and the little nuances that you're waiting for in order to actually push forward. So you have to, in order to reach, hey Dee, in order for you to reach this mental space where you can determine these final little details to get everything locked into place to move forward into your goals, there's some unfamiliar parts that you're kind of neglecting because you're doing the familiar over and over and over again. So you have to actually challenge yourself to get to these unfamiliar parts and do these unfamiliar things. That's where that challenge lies, and in that challenge, that's where you kind of unlock. You also want to be feeling as though when you do this, you are ready to just simply receive it. You're not directing it, you're not visualizing it even. Just receive what you're looking for. And by just kind of disconnecting in that sacred space, you're giving it a chance to come forward without you talking over it, without your phone ringing, without you checking your notifications. You have to find some time to disconnect and get yourself out of that comfort zone so that you can get these details into place. That is where you're going to find the next steps. So moving into the next position, I have the Eight of Wands in the fire position. Let me pull this one up. This is the Eight of Wands. The fire position, the will. This is what we're desiring right now. You are just very singularly focused and determined on making something happen. It's the only thing that really matters at this point. And you've somewhat regained some energy after having lost it. So now there's like this even bigger push, this even bigger desire to make this happen. It's just kind of eating away at you, that you have to use this energy while you have it, and you're pushing forward with this. And in order to really utilize that energy, you have to focus that trajectory in. And so with that first step at that finding those details, then we're able to actually utilize that energy that we want to utilize. We have to be willing to not just work hard at our goal. It's not just about working hard. It's about continuously improving at what we're doing so that we are open to receiving what's next. We're open to increasing our skill in various areas, learning new skills constantly. It wants you to utilize this initiative by actually harnessing your ability to learn these skills and to take these new skills in as well. So part of this is also going to be you gaining more information, more knowledge, more ability, and maybe it's the pieces that we're looking for relates to this, that we're not sure how to do that or what it is that we're looking for in doing that. But essentially you are blocking yourself from knowing what's next because we're trying so hard to just push forward without knowing exactly what we need to do. We have to kind of, we're going to be talking more in the next cards about surrendering. We're going to be surrendering to the timeline that we don't have a choice in. So definitely some frustrating positions to be in, simply because you feel as though you're just very driven to push forward, but yet you don't have enough. It's like you're ready to go on your trip, but you don't know where you take off from, like where your launch point is. So you're kind of like, what do I do with it? What do I do? I know it's right here. I can feel it. It's right here. We're going to have to push outside of our comfort zone in order to find the answers to that. So the next card in this is, we're going to be talking, is air position. These are things that we have coming forward for us. There is not a lot of work that can be done to circumvent something in an air position. The Four of Pentacles is really good for us though, so that's a good thing. We don't want to circumvent that. It is a period of time where you embrace and become so strong with what it is that you're doing. When you finally have the answers and the skills and your push forward and all that energy is, and all the timing has fallen into place, this is where we end up. We end up at the Four of Pentacles. This is great influence. And this is a very special kind of an influence, because this is not force, this is a power. Power is, for some situations, we don't have control over it. But there are other aspects that we do, and when we do, we have a tendency to overkill with it and kind of get a little bit drunk with it, or maybe want to push it to its limits, to its test. And so this card is talking about the energy flux that always goes back and forth. We have to maintain that balance. And so though we might end up in a position where we have this influence, we have to be really careful how we're using that energy, and we don't want to take it too far. We want to also remember to be humbled by it, because that's how we're constantly floating through this existence. You know, we can't, there's really nothing beyond this life that comes with us, except the experiences, maybe the love, maybe that's it. So everything that we're doing here, we have to be very careful of. And this card is pointing out that at times we may try to use a mask or a persona to achieve things, to push forward. And it's wanting us to be really careful about how we're pushing, because as we're pushing, we're actually creating resistance. So it doesn't want us to be pushing for anything. It wants us to realize that there is a period where we have to actually be letting go. Stop trying to replace what's missing. Just let go and not try to maintain this image that no longer suits you anymore. So there's some aspects of yourself you're holding on to, maybe some relationships you're holding on to that don't suit you anymore. These are ephemeral. These do not last. These do not give any satisfaction or joy. These do nothing for us. So we are being forced into a position, as this card in this position indicates. We're coming across this period of time where we're going to be forced to reinvent ourselves. Not that the pieces of you weren't relevant before, but just that going forward, they just aren't going to be serving you in the same way. So it doesn't make any sense to be carrying these along. We have to move into that more authentic version of the self, and that means getting rid of these expectations to others, and recognizing that any expectations that they have on us are also not valid. So yeah, the power that we have in influence depends greatly on how we use it and whether or not we're using it authentically and honestly, and in a way where we're just content with, and less pushing against the way things fall into place for us. We don't want to fight against these things. We just want to allow them to occur. Next position being water. Water is our choice. We can divert this energy as we like. And it just depends on how we utilize it and if we understand what we're supposed to be doing with it. So the Strength card, I always love the imagery on these cards because it always brings the lion into play. The lion's one of my particularly favorite signs. The energy from the Leo is a special kind of a strength. It is not the strength that attacks, that goes into things full force without planned strategy. It's actually more of a loving and patient, allowing things to play out and only reacting with where you actually need to interfere, because sometimes you just don't need to interfere. Sometimes you actually just need to be a little bit more inward focused. This is more of that instinctual inner power that one possesses when you are on path, when you are in alignment with what you're looking for, when you are in balance emotionally, when you recognize when your balance is off emotionally and you take action to balance it out. Because it's good to recognize it, but we also have to take action on it. And that requires a great amount of strength as well. This is not a type of power that makes demands of life, of people. This is the kind of power that it provides and sustains a supportive environment. So the Strength card is always looking at this power as the opposite of force, where force would be demanding. Force would be not lacking patience. Force would be aggressive. This is a much more stable, solid type of energy, which is really going to be beneficial overall to working through the tough stuff, right? We have to be patient, and we have to love everything that's occurring around us, even if we really don't like it, because there's something there for us to learn and to gain from it. So that kind of strength is kind of a long haul strength in some ways as well. but we're feeling fearful of something and just acting anyway. We don't know what's going to happen when we do it this way, but we're going to do it anyway because we know that we have to push outside of those normal boundaries. Otherwise, we're not going to get where we want. We have the energy and the practice and the tools to endure what is coming and what we're dealing with. It's not going to be some crazy feat to accomplish it. It's just a matter of keeping that patient, calm power about it. You know what's occurring, you know it's coming, you know it's yours. That kind of confidence. You have to trust and embrace that. So, the advice card that comes up, we're looking at the Hangman. He has to surrender. That's the advice of the cards. Just stop pushing so hard. Actually step back from it and allow it to kind of fall into place. And not by stepping back and saying this goal doesn't matter to me, but sometimes we spend too much time on the daydream, on the image, on the what it is that we're looking for to occur, and we're spending so much time on seeing that happen that that's the cycle that we get stuck into, and we forget that we have to actually do the work that we're supposed to be doing. We actually have to get through our day-to-day and keeping our head straight so we're not disrupting that energy flow. And that is, it's frustrating. There's no other nice way to put it. It's frustrating to realize that you don't have control over a lot of stuff. There's only a very tiny, tiny piece of the universe that you actually have control over. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make a tremendous amount happy of things happen in that tiny, tiny fragment of your universe, but that's all you have control over. So, I mean, unless you want to talk about the collective, but that's a different night. We'll talk about that. It's like the 1 step forward, 2 steps back thing. You're pushing for it. You're like, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? And it's like, no. You're supposed to form the picture of it, and then you're supposed to step back and do some more work, and then you're supposed to get the details of the picture as you're doing the work. Then you know where you're headed, and you'll see what the little signs along the way. That's basically. So, anytime the Hangman shows up, what it's really pointing out is that every time you hit a bump in the road that feels like a bump in the road, it's not a bump in the road designed to screw you up. It's supposed to help you maintain balance. It's supposed to make you reevaluate what's in front of you and what you're doing. So if you're spending a lot of time manifesting and daydreaming, and then the rest of the time you're actually not being productive and working on the things that you want to be working on, you're not doing what you need to be doing. But we have this drive that's just constantly pushing us, and so the drive kind of overtakes the brain, and then we're not actually accomplishing as much as we need to be accomplishing, and it results in that pushback. So there's an interruption that's occurring right now. This is a pushback, and it's from the way that we're pushing. And it's not that we shouldn't be pushing, it's that we have to balance our push with our actions and what we're actually doing to manifest what we're trying to accomplish here. So it really wants you to give up the push and just kind of make peace with, like, you gave it the picture already. You gave the universe the picture of what you want. It's not gonna forget. So you can kind of just like make peace with where you're at And be like, this is the part of the journey. There's going to be stuff along the way that I have to still learn until I get to where I want to be. I have to accept this. I have to surrender to what is being thrown at me. But the universe has not forgotten what it is that I want. It might just be, trying to give you like a better version of that, like maybe better than you even imagined. So, we have to, being at peace with the soul is being at peace with the process of life and all of the ups and downs that occur. It's the ebb and flow of energy. The Wheel of Fortune, I was talking about in another stream about how there's the part where we're going up, 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 and then there's the down, 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 and we have to have both of those in order for the wheel to be turning. And the more we accept that, the less that feels really turbulent, because we just know it's going to happen. And so then you can just find peace with that and be like, okay, I'm at one of those phases. What am I missing? What am I not getting? So we have to reshape our feelings about things as they come up, as these, the world hits us and we go, I was on a roll and it messed me up. We have to reshape our feelings about these feelings. It is not messing you up. That is just a transient situation. That is a transient feeling. It's going to pass very quickly in the grand scheme of things. So we have to really just kind of like, when we come to those bumps in the road, instead of being like, you kind of, all right, work your way over it, work your way through it, use the tools that you have. Yeah, I love using the roller coaster metaphor as well, because it really does feel, there's times that it's going so fast. You're like, I want to get off. Too many loop-de-loops in a row, I'm gonna throw up. And then there's times that you're like, this is taking forever. So the hangman is the you're just like, but you're gonna get there. It's gonna get there eventually, and when you get there, it's gonna be really cool. You're gonna have a little and you're off, and then you're gonna want to get off because it's going too fast. You'll find the balance after the end of that. So this is wanting us to take time out for a new perspective and reconnect with that more authentic self that isn't pushing quite so hard, but is just kind of in love with existing and allowing life to take us to that next step in the journey, and whatever we learn there is going to be good. It's all coming, whatever it is that you're working towards, whatever it is that you see, whatever you're trying to manifest, it's there and it's coming, and it's not, it's just to see what he looks like. I don't usually look under me. He's pretty dope. He's very impatient. He's impatient. We want to be doing faster. But it is what it is. Hi, Hallie. Doing good stuff with the diet. I've been sticking to my diet, and then they really screwed up my prescription for my thyroid med again. So here's to hoping that me being very, very careful doesn't result in me gaining 8 pounds in 4 days again. That's usually what happens. So I very much enjoy the diet that I'm on. Mostly it's because food used to make me miserable, and I've determining all these really bad allergies was very helpful, and being vegan food's really good. Thank you, Murder. I appreciate you joining us. Trying to get a little bit more regular with my streams. been streaming for a long time on another channel, but not as myself, just behind the scenes. And so now I'm doing this. Yeah, Hallie, one of the things that helped me a lot, because once I realized the portions for a healthy diet for me is pretty, like, eliminating a lot of carbs is really what's best for me, but I can't be eating a bunch of fats either. And when it came down to it, what was really getting me was I was having a lot of trouble with digesting meat as well. But then I wasn't getting enough protein, and I was just super tired, and I was hungry all the time. I started drinking, I don't have one in here. I usually have a protein shake. I started drinking protein shakes, and I feel so much better. And then it's way easier to not eat too much. But yeah. Oh, word. Yeah. It's that was a something I had to come to terms with when I first started on the bariatric program with the nutritionist. I was really not being honest with myself about how my body felt. Like, you can do all the things to make your mind happy, but at some point, if your body's not happy, that's going to be the holdup. And I think I reached that point where I was just realizing that I was probably cutting my life short by 20 to 30 years by what I was doing to it. So I had to consider it. It's like, what kind, what are you trying to do? You're trying to add to your grave, or you're trying to live? So yeah, it's well, death is, that the end of a cycle. Bana, it means there's some stuff that you're supposed to be shutting down here. We're at the new moon too. So with the new moon, we're looking at the refreshing of these cycles. But in order for you to move past that death card, we have to grieve and then allow it to end. We have to recognize that, like, we can grieve and still let go, right? So that specific card is trying to tell you that there's something that just isn't working for you. You got to end that cycle and start something new here. Which, I mean, the whole reading was about getting out of the box and new perspective. And how are you going to get that new perspective if you keep doing the same things, making the same choices, hanging out with the same people in the same places? Yeah, Hallie, that's that was something I used to deal with when I was younger, where it was beating myself up more directly. And I realized that over time, I think I just suppressed it, where it was like, okay, well, but I can be body positive. So yeah, just like done. But yeah, I had to, it was like, oh, I can be body positive. But then it was like, at some point, I'm like, as much as I am appreciative of body positivity, there is a little bit of pushback when you suggest that you no longer feel comfortable like that, and you no longer want to live, with that mindset and perspective. It's wild. There's some, of course, there's individuals that are, somewhat fetishize larger or smaller women. There's both ends of the spectrum there. But I was very surprised at how much pushback I received when I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. It was almost like people that I didn't expect to have an opinion. It was wild. But anyway, Um, so that reading, we're gonna be hopefully this, like I said 7 to 10 days. Yeah, I was the same way. Like, I'm so like, anytime I see somebody of any size just living their best life, I'm like, you go. But like for me, it was like, no, this is not what you're supposed to look like. But I had to come to terms with like loving myself at every size and being like, okay. And so I've been making a point to take more pictures of myself in ways that I feel attractive, so that I'm identifying how I feel attractive at all the sizes that I've been at. So I made myself do it when I was a weight that I really was uncomfortable, and I've never showed anyone these pictures. But when I look at them, it just says a lot to me about like the way that I'm looking at the camera compared to the way like more recently. More recently, I feel like I can see like more confidence in my expression. Like I just feel like I'm moving in the right direction. So we're gonna keep that up. I have 100 more pounds to lose, so we'll see what I can do. Drinking decaf coffee at 9:30 at night. So what do we need? Does anybody need any cards drawn? Would you like me to address a personal situation? You don't have to tell me about the personal situation if you don't want to. You could just say, I need a card. And I'll pull a couple cards for it and we'll see what comes up. Oh yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Accepting that he's not just saying it. He's not just saying it because you know, he wants to make you feel better. Like that was genuinely a part of you becoming a couple. Was that he is attracted to you. And it does take, society tells us that people aren't supposed to be attracted to these other body types, but that's not reality at all. I find, and just anybody here that does not know, or anybody watching in the future that does not know this, I work online as an adult content creator, mostly as a dom, but it's, you know, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Before it became popular to do videos, it was actually audio and photo sets at the time I started. Put food on the table, and that's what I've gone about. So being a large woman, that's the niche I'm in, that's the market I'm in. I'm the BBW type, and the amount of people that are willing to express all kinds of things to me privately, but then deny or ignore or ghost me entirely in public is just astounding. So many people have, and this is the way, I believe this is the way for any, you know, not average body type. And we can go in any extreme, whether it's extremely large breast or very tiny breast, or large butts or no butts, or big women or very tiny women, tall women, very short women. There's always these individuals who will be very attracted to that, worship you even, but not in public, not under the watchful gaze of society. And the people that you find that are attracted to these different bodies are, you know, the people that you're told not to expect that. I used to actually collect I used to collect pictures of customers, not with their faces, but their bodies, like their torsos or so, because they would just always be these like just incredibly fit bodies. Like, are you sure you're attracted to me? It was so, it made it really hard to believe them. It really did, because I'm like, you don't, no, you don't. This is a joke, right? I'm like, no. But, not to where they would actually want to go out with me in public or anything. And then there's I get a lot of like secret crushes. So it's difficult to trust that, because you don't know where it's coming from too, and then ending up in a relationship. But I have come across a large number of partner type people who are not even remotely concerned or care about physical appearance in a partner. So we have the opposite. We've got balance, I think. But it's just a very interesting phenomenon, because that's what we're told is, no. They like this. This is what we put on the magazines. And it's like, actually, no, they definitely like me. And I definitely would not be on a magazine. Yeah, and that's especially when you come from a history of relationships that are not positive in that way. Like my son's father, for example, he was a source of trauma for my self-esteem in that regard, because of a comment that he made. And so then you end up in a position where you're in a relationship where the person is very supportive and they say that, and you're just like waiting for the jab. It's so unhealthy. You have to take some time to unlearn that. Oh, blessings and love, KCK. Thank you for joining. 11:11. When I've been catching it so much, and I'm just waiting to see like what is the piece that I'm missing. Has anybody been seeing a lot of synchronicity and like not? I like that's what the card reading was about earlier. It was like you're trying to get that clarity and focus, those little details, and you're not quite seeing it. But like, I'm seeing all the synchronicities, and I'm not quite picking up. Like, I know that means that I'm doing it right. Like, I feel good. I feel like I'm on the right path. I'm just like, I guess the next step is this way. Like, I just feel very uncertain about it. There's definitely a little bit of a leap of faith involved here, I think, at some points, where you just have to really go, okay, no, everything's happening in divine timing here, right? It's just happening. But that's what I've been dealing with my personal process and work towards my next goals, feeling that I am so close to realizing these last pieces, but also realizing that what looks like so close to me is probably much, much longer. Like, we're probably talking more like 2 years. And I'm just that impatient, that desire, that impatience is not. Let's see if I can shuffle without knocking my deck off. It turns your restrainer, it turns one on your partner's birthday. So this one I pulled is the Great Severing. We're talking about dealing with conflict with a different edge, softening to love. So I wonder if the Pisces new moon's got us. It's that creative, inspirational energy that is really what's driving all of this, like wanting to go forward and not knowing what to do. So that's what the Pisces new moon, that's the influence there, is this innovation, this motivation to move forward. these creative outlets and ideas are in process of coming forward, and we're a little bit impatient about it, I think. But it's also, we're looking at these fresh new cycles to start moving into something that's our next step of the journey. And if we're not, if we're pushing too hard, we're not enjoying the path. So trust the timing. Right? Trust the wave you came in at. It's nice. It's not running out. We're not running out of time. It's right on time. It's always right on time. It's divine timing. So of course it's on time. How dare you say otherwise? Yeah, the fresh seeds. It's the springtime, so we're planting these new seeds. Everything that comes forward in this period of time also, a lot of times we actually planted the seeds already, and we're just advancing it in growth. We're getting it to rise to the surface now. Some of those seeds took a little while longer to germinate. So we're moving into bigger growth phase for these things. That's where that spring energy drives in. There's, with this Seven of Cups, this is my Wild Unknown deck. Cute deck. The Seven of Cups is very similar in that, yes, some of these seeds take a long time. And that's what this is talking about. This is that, like, not entirely sure what's next. Maybe a little confused even because we're not getting that next message, but sometimes that means we just have to wait. So we just have to wait for that timing. That seed's not taking a long time. It feels like it is to us, but it's taking the perfect amount of time. Just what it's supposed to be doing. We're being a little too oversensitive. Being the Daughter of Cups. But, just taking in all that energy. Temperance always comes up. Temperance, temperance, temperance. I don't even want to see temperance right now, Like, I know. It's always temperance. At least it's not the Tower this weekend. It's like, yeah, the spring equinox is when I do a lot of my very big manifesting, I suppose you could call them rituals, but that's when I spend a lot of time doing that and try to get really honed in. And that's, I think, where this reading came up, is it was like, what am I supposed to do next? And then, the cards come up and say, you're just supposed to do what you're doing and stop pushing it so hard. You're just trying to push it so hard. So impatient. I'm impatient. I am. But I like, I like seeing things happen as closely to the way as I envision them. I think we all do to a certain degree. We really want it to look a certain way. And then when there's a part of the process that doesn't look the way that we thought, we think that it's somehow not happening that way. And that's just not how it is. We just can't see the other pieces falling into place. So, yeah, she's always hanging around. She's always balanced over me, going, don't fall. Don't fall in. And it's really difficult because you'll get, like, I'm very, I don't like the word sensitive because I think people overuse it in a negative way, but I'm empathic, and but I also feel like there are times that rejection can really kick me pretty hard. So I'll
find myself just like destroyed by it, and I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. But I've taken to that message earlier in the cards where it was, you know, think of that feeling as transient, like feel it, but then just allow it to pass rather than trying to stuff it down, rather than trying to ignore it. That's not helping either. That's a blockage. So we're supposed to be riding those waves, you know, and stay on it. Shut down and cry for a long time. Yeah, definitely. I have recently, I think, um, my cycle is new moon, so this is where I get my most heightened emotions, for good or for bad. I'm very much going to be reactive over uh, how I feel about things. This card, I love this card, but I hate this card. Let me tell you why. First of all, it's dolphins, and I like dolphins. But you know why I hate this card? Because it's brutal. This and that are true, is what the card says. What it means is that your truth, what you've experienced in a situation, it's literally calling me out right now for what I was just talking about. What I experienced and what I felt, it's not invalid. That's what I experienced and what I felt, and that was my truth. But that does not mean that that was the truth from the perspective of the other person. The other person's truth looks a little bit different than that, and that doesn't mean that either of them are right or wrong. There are unique perspectives, so there are truths, but you have to accept that there's that above the surface, below the surface. There's always a little bit more to be seen. And yeah, all truths are half truths. It's only one piece of the puzzle, sometimes even less. How many people were involved? There's more perspectives. That one just called me out. So I'm over here crying, and this person's like, "Why are you crying?" That's basically I guarantee that person's like, "Why were you even crying? What the fuck is wrong with you?" I'm hormonal. I love the spider spirit too. See if this one even shows up. Yeah, this one's not even gonna show up properly because of my green screen. The spider spirit's nice though, because you know it just reminds us that there's like that step-by-step effort, and all things that are worth having are worth putting all that time and patience, and then the effort of and the constant improvement, all those things that came up in the reading today. It's worth all of that. There's yeah, the high priestess one, my friend. Look, that is the cost of having the cool background. For the meditation tomorrow night, though, I'm gonna talk the first part, because in one of my earlier videos there's a bunch of people that don't know how to meditate. So I'm gonna teach some methods of meditation. But then I'm going to play a pre-recorded meditation. The first 10 minutes are just going to be a relaxation meditation. And for some people, that is all they can handle. So I'm going to actually, at that point, kind of allow people to break away if they want to. And then continue into a guided meditation where focusing more on their productivity and relieving anxiety and kind of letting things flow. That's the gist of it. The spring equinox is my favorite for starting new stuff, for sure. Taking on new endeavors. As I was getting close to this, I've only done like 2 weeks of streams, not even a week and a half. And it's just so close to. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of appropriate time to kick off, I guess. And then slowly but surely I'll expand topics and stuff. Yeah, this is my, oh yeah, there's so much going on this month. I had a whole chart of it. I'm really, really bad at remembering all of the dates, so I just follow a couple different Instagram accounts that help keep me in line. Remind me of what's coming, because I'm really bad at it. I mean, I have the basic stuff in my calendar, but like, it's just not my strong suit. I definitely work more off of just the natural energy intuition type reads. That's my jam. It's one of those kids that, this is a fun card too. I see. Wow, that turned out really, look at that, it's so neat. Looks so neat. Anyway, the starfish spirit. The infinite possibility one always gets me, because we really don't know how to conceive infinite as humans. Infinite, like we think we get the concept of that, but I don't think we really get the concept of that. I've had some experiences guided by spiritual shamans where I think I felt infinite, but I can't explain it. And I think a lot of people, when they explore their spiritual selves and they mess around for a while, they get to a point where, oh, thank you. This is my sad, fat luck mug. My Chusky. It's my favorite coffee mug. I drink out of it every day. But yeah, we think we know what the concept of infinite is, but we really don't. It's just such a huge concept. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people have possibly felt in various meditation or experiences they may have had, they may have felt infinite, but, and then like ask them to explain it. Yeah, that is in the Hangman, exactly. It's that surrendering to, we don't know. We don't know. We know nothing. There's nothing to know, so it's not like we're missing out on anything. It just is. But I really like the idea of meditating on, you know, the concepts of recognizing that what you feel, what you want to feel when you manifest your next goal, your next thing. There's so many possible ways that could come about, that really the more time we spend trying to detail our manifestation with our visions and our vision board, like it's totally healthy to get a couple of ideas together and some guidelines and you have a general picture, but it's more important that you know what that outcome feels like and you just let the universe deliver. Because ultimately, if you feel as good as you want to feel, and that to you is pinnacle, do you care what it looks like? Does that matter as much as how you feel? Like, I that could be anything. I don't know what's gonna, like, there's so many ideas I haven't even considered. It could be something I've never even considered considering. So, he's in ecstasy. Yeah, you know, he's reaching a point where he's just chilling. He's chilling. And like that's a really hard that's really hard to grasp sometimes when you are wanting to see something, especially when you feel very inspired to push forward. And that's what we're feeling, and that's why we have that conflict, because we're feeling very inspired to push forward and really wanting to drive it home, and the hangman's like, chill. You gotta chill. But I love this card because I love thinking about the concept of what that infinite possibility really means, and how much I really have to let go of in my ideas and expectations of what manifesting my goals. I know what I feel like doing the things that I want to be doing. But there's so many different ways that can be happening, and it's already changed for me. Like several times in my life, I've already had this, what caused those feelings that I wanted changed drastically. I started off in one area, and as long as it felt that good, I was perfectly happy. And as soon as it didn't feel that good, I wasn't happy anymore. And I would say the first 2-3 times this occurs, like I completely lose track of who I am. I don't know what to do next. I didn't have the tools to get myself back on track like I have now. You know, I have the tools now where I go, whoa, 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 whoa. If this something's not making you happy, what is it? You know, and I know what to do. But when I was young and, you know, a little young weirdo, I'm unhappy and life falls apart. And I don't know what to do. I'm stuck in it. So now I feel like I've actually gotten pretty good at it, to where I'm totally comfortable moving, smacking cards around, moving through that temporary lull and whatever, and moving into the next thing that's gonna match that vibration and make me feel that good feel. And I have been totally surprised so far, the things that have done that for me. I have no idea. I had no idea this is one of the things I ended up doing. How did this happen? You know? What a weird life I've lived. I have lived a very weird life. I've really been messing with my oracle decks a lot. This Wild Unknown one's kind of ticking me out. Just because it wants to be. I want to be heavy right now. I had a whole heavy week. A whole heavy week of feeling. Felt very unappreciated. Felt like I invested a lot of time in a friendship that wasn't being reciprocated at all. It's like, I'm over here like, you know, and then that's what, you know, got me into that whole like expectations and that dolphin, this and that are true, you know. I'm over here like, oh, I'm investing all this and not getting what I was like, oh, I'm expecting. That's not how it works. This person doesn't even know my expectations. It's not fair to them. So mostly many strange lives, yeah. That's a good thing. We're on an adventure. I don't know how many times I get to adventure. I'm gonna do all the strange things while I'm here if I can. Obviously, I've done some of the other stuff. Other stuff just seems boring to me now. Yeah. I have 2 oracle decks that I've been working from. The Animal Spirit is really pretty. And then, what is this one called? It's another like spirit oracle something, I don't know. But this is more like just different ways of talking about the same concepts. Really, I just want a bunch of decks that are the same size and a basket of them. And then I'm just gonna, that would tick people. I know so many readers that would hate that. But I have one of my earlier mentors was like that. She actually had like 4 or 5 different oracle decks, just all mixed together. They're all the same size cards. They're just in a basket. And when you would get your reading done, you would just reach into the basket and grab whatever card you felt like grabbing. Really cool. Because there's so many messages that you could get there. The world. We just talked about the world. Give me something new. Give me something new. It's just going to keep adding to the same concepts that I'm talking about. It's like, no, this is where you're at. This is what you're working on. We're just going to keep adding to those same concepts now. What you thought. Thought you were going to get something else to talk about. No. Another hermit. But I mean, we already know what that's about. The hermit. He's going out in nature and making that sacred space and allowing the answers to come to you. You gotta go within. The hermit is one of my favorite cards. I used to identify a lot with the hermit. There was a period of my life that's what I identified with strictly. That was like my card. And then I went through a phase where I pretty much was stuck in like chariot mode. That was all I wanted. Then I went through a very long tower period. And then that's what launched. I feel like that's what really launched me back into the spiritual process, but taking knowledge that I had with me, I started again at the magician. Now I have the tools. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to advance. And that allows me to move past that hermit mode. And very long period of time, I often feel like High Priestess is my card. Very often feel like the High Priestess. I mean, that's what I'm doing. So it makes sense that I would, be seeking answers and sharing answers and taking in the knowledge and sharing the wisdom. But there is also more recently since this age of Aquarius shifted in, that I'm feeling more of my Empress as well, where I'm just feeling a lot more nurturing, a lot more patient and grounded, and wanting to heal and help. Still connecting with the High Priestess, but there's a different element here that feels a little bit more motherly in some way, reconnecting with the feminine and that strong energy that radiates. So I move about all the cards, of course. I'm always the Queen of Pentacles, though. That's my card. And the High Priestess. So. But I've been through all of them. We go through all of them. The longer you're alive, the more times you cycle through them. But I think that's the fun. I feel like that's where we're at right now. We're almost cycling back through, and now we're starting back at the Fool, where we don't quite have a grasp, but we're having a good time, I guess. We're starting a new adventure. Why not? Let's go. But now it's time to get a little more serious, collecting the tools, getting prepared, to buckle down and really, truly dig forward into that. So we're starting a new cycle to do this again. Yeah, it never ends. The other night, I separated my whole major arcana from the Starman deck. I was intending to go through the archetypes and record that and just like put that up as the archetype so that people could just listen to it if they were unfamiliar with the tarot, whatever. I'm still laughing about that. Maybe so, but it's not a good word. We're not going to use it. But yeah, there's definitely some, you know. Yeah, life is a mystery. I know. Cat spirit. This one's a cute one. We just talked about this, making surrender to the sweetness. There is a little bit of sweetness and innocence to surrendering to what happens, because you have to trust at a different level, almost childlike level of trust, that no harm comes to you on this journey. And after being an adult for a period of time, we find it very difficult to get to that. But yeah, we shapeshift. I think, every 10 years we're a new person. Not just physically, not just in terms of cells, like cellular regeneration, but in terms of like all our ideals and our experiences have reshaped things every 10 years. If you don't experience anything in 10 years, I what are you doing? But I know there's people that are like this. I know that they exist. And if this is how they're happy, I'm not judging them. But I do see, that tends to be where people are unhappiest, is when they're that stagnant. Like, we're not supposed to be stagnant. It's supposed to be dynamic. It's supposed to be the ebb and flow. It's constantly supposed to be moving and changing, because what else is there? What joy and satisfaction is there in staying in the exact same place all that time? I don't get that. To me, it's like the concept of boredom. I don't get bored. I don't understand that concept. And not that I don't think it's possible. I do see it's possible, especially if you're in an unstimulating environment. But for me, that's where I say, this environment is not stimulating me. I need to get out of it before I get bored. So for me, the concept of boredom means it's time to move. It's time to act. It's time to change. There's something I'm needing to be doing right now. I'm sure there's something I could be working on. There's usually... Yeah, it becomes a bad habit, really. But don't discredit the effect of executive dysfunction on that either, because we often will confuse executive dysfunction with boredom. And it's really not that you don't have anything to work on or you don't know what to work on. It's that sometimes there's too many things to work on, or at least there's a fair number of them, and you really don't know where to begin, because getting involved in one of them definitely will probably mean neglecting something else. That is the nature of the ADD person or ADHD person. So you almost don't know how to start. They did some studies. They said that part of it had to do with a delayed development of the prefrontal cortex. I believe it was where cognitive decision making took place. And there was some kind of a delay in development in that, and it was it requires practice and training to work it into taking that act to actually do the thing, rather than just sit there and accepting boredom, to actually stand up and go find something to do. Because so many times, yeah, it has a lot to do with those slower milestones, for sure. For me, I had difficulties in decision making. That was one of my early signs, I think, was not knowing which thing to pick, like not knowing how to prioritize. So I spoke really early, but I didn't know how to, I didn't relate to people very easily. I either felt way more than they did or not enough. I felt like I was a robot learning. I was like learning how humans humaned. That was what I felt like. Yeah, I didn't like your own sign language. I had my own language. It wasn't a sign language, but I like made up my own language, and I don't remember enough of it to like relay it back. But it was just a very cryptic kind of. It felt very natural. It was just a very natural like vocal thing for me. But I basically would try to teach my friends that so I could talk to only certain people at a certain time. And then I realized that I didn't like other people knowing it because I wanted to be able to write in my own language. So I started changing it, and then I don't remember what happened. At some point I probably lost interest. But at some point. Yeah, my brother was actually had some speech delay, and he often, like, his gestures and his body language were how we read. It was almost to the point like where we were giving him a reason to not learn to communicate his words because we were reading him so well. He was so good at conveying himself. And his daughter does the same thing. When she was little, before she could speak, she would use gestures and her body language to communicate, to the point where I could communicate with her. She'd never had to talk. And then I was like, this kid's not going to talk because I could read her. Because people would be like, what does she mean, Nikki? And I'm like, oh, she means this, or whatever. But yeah, we come up with our own secret language. When I was really little, I think the reason I developed that, I had, like, my best friend and I, we like made a journal. You know, we were really excited. We're making our secret journals, and we made our little journals, and like we wrote a couple entries in them. And I'm pretty sure I forgot about it, but like mostly it wasn't like a real journal. It was more like, I don't know, we were just being dramatic little kids, you know. So I forgot about it. And at some point down the road, my mom was being particularly nosy and going through all my stuff, and she claims that it just happened to fall out on this one particular page. No, it didn't. But anyway, she read it and then like punished me for what really wasn't it wasn't bad. It was just, I basically like dramatized the situation, and she acted like I was like telling the world that this thing happened, and it really didn't. Oh yeah, new pathways. That's definitely. I feel like at some point, that's what evolved. My language evolved into was just. You're right. Yeah, finding new ways to take it back and have my own inner sanctum, free of the prying eyes and ears of people that did not understand what I was doing or saying. I spent a great deal of time thinking for myself and I learned about I was a big reader, so I ended up coming into different concepts of various psychics when I was very, very young, and immediately was drawn to it, immediately was fascinated by these different tests. I want to say one of the first times I actually like saw any like reference to the fact that you could even be tested for it was in like Ghostbusters. And I remember watching Ghostbusters and like knowing the answers. And then like seeing the ant and being like, I wonder if I could do that, and wanting to be tested. But since I couldn't, and my mother basically told me that was nonsense, I started looking at books in the library about the abilities of the brain. What can the brain do? Yeah, I taught myself to read early. I actually was good at talking, but I could not tie my shoes. I could not tie my shoes until I was like 10. So I feel that. Yeah. Anything that has to do with like um, really detailed, careful stuff I struggled with when I was little, especially. Now I'm very dexterous because of tattooing for so many years. But not, not anymore. But yeah, I think I just spent a tremendous amount of time practicing opening those pathways that I could see and hear things that other people couldn't see and hear, and just like allowing my brain to be open to the possibility that there was something there that I couldn't see or hear. And then I would just start to see more and more signs. And then at some point, I remember just very vividly picturing this little girl outside. I was outside by myself riding my bike, and I just seen her very clearly. Like, I knew she wasn't there, but I just saw her very clearly, and she was talking to me. And I think everybody just assumed I was just talking to myself, but she would tell me about her life, and then I would tell people about her, and they were like, oh, that's so cute, you have an imaginary friend. But I knew so much about her, and there's this weird like section of our front yard that you could clearly see came off the driveway and might have used to been a sidewalk, but had grown over mostly. And the only reason you could tell was that because it got to a certain point, like it was a little bit like raised, and then there was the little sections where you could kind of dig down and find the concrete. But then it got to a part where it turned, and then there was like a bigger piece where that must have been like the base of their stairs in the front of their house. At least that's what I could see in my head. And I would ride my bike there, and like that was like I was riding my bike to her house to see if she wanted to play. And I remember doing this, and I was outside standing there, obviously animatedly talking to no one that anyone else could see anyway. And my neighbor was very drunk, and this was very normal for him, so he wasn't harmful, but he was drunk a lot. He was like, hey, kid's talking to a ghost. And yeah, it was, my mom was just so like weirded out by it, because he was like yelling at me about it. And then later I remember him telling me about that there was a farmhouse that had been there. The land was broken up differently before that road was put in, and that was actually where this farmhouse had been. And was like talking about like how this whole section of land was this one farmer's land. And was like, I think an accident happened. Like, I think that little girl died because I've seen her before. And of course my parents thought he was just drunk or whatever. Years go by. Down the road, I end up living in that house, my family house, again. Now I have my son with me, who at the time was about 8 years old, about the age that I was playing with my imaginary friend. It would have been probably about 5 to 8, 8 or 9 or so. So yeah, my son's outside, he's playing, and the house next door where the drunk neighbor had lived, he had actually passed away some years before, and a friend of the family bought it. So there was nobody living there at the time though. It was just, they just had a bunch of stuff in there. My son was over at the back door. There's like a big concrete flat where the picnic table used to be, and he was just, drawing with chalk, playing. There's no reason for him to be concerned. And I guess he said he looked up and there was a little girl looking out the window at him, and he screamed and ran all the way home. And as soon as he described her, I was like chills. I just started crying because I was like, that was her. That was my imaginary friend, just still here. And that was one of the points where I realized that I really had to get back to my teaching and learning and being a student, because I was missing out on a gift that I was born with, that I just naturally had. I can feel, the history of where I'm at and stuff. So I wish I could do more. My goal is to be able to, first of all, get this to affiliate. I need 50 followers. Everything else I've got so far, I'm doing pretty good, but I need 50 followers, and I'm like 7 or 8 short. So if anybody is interested, anybody who's interested in this kind of stuff and they're willing to follow me, that would be cool. My goal is to get it to affiliate so I can do subscriptions, and then I can do regular streams. But what I really want to do is I want to be able to stream in different locations. I want to be able to go to various places where I can do, channeling, go check out some places of activity and stuff like that, and actually be able to stream some of my impressions and energy from various places. I'm not talking about being like a ghost hunter as much as trying to explain the stories behind where I'm standing and what I'm feeling and all that stuff. So that's kind of my idea, and like do readings from these different locations. And I really want to do that. That's my goal. In order to do that, I need to lock a few more things down. So that's the part of my manifesting, is this channel. Oh yeah, and the poltergeist. I have always had one in my home. I swear, there's always one. But the home I live in right now, the home that I bought, the lady that lived here originally died here, and her name was Maria, and she was Hispanic, and she absolutely hates my housekeeping. She hates my housekeeping, and she's always yelling at me about mopping my floor because I don't mop my floor enough, she says. And I swear, like, there's so often that, like, she'll just knock shit on the floor, but like, will, like, require me to freaking mop it. Just, like, Maria, leave me alone, Maria. But yeah, it was funny because, like, I knew her name was Maria, and I knew that she was mad about this, and I knew that she was Hispanic because she was yelling at me in Spanish. And, I was like, are you serious right now? And then I mentioned it to the lady that owned the house before me, and she was like, oh my god, how did you know about her? And I'm like, well, she still lives there. Yeah, I have them follow me. I can make electricity go weird myself, so I never know if it's a ghost or not. When I do channeling, and I hunted high and low over the years that to find myself a Ouija board. No, I've made one, right? I've like made them myself, and I like working off my own. But when I was a child, there were a few specific incidents that occurred to me that led me to believe that I was different. The very first one was at Girl Scouts. We had a slumber party, and we were playing Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board. This was after our karaoke and our dance contest. So we were playing, and I was never one to be like my turn kind of a person, but like I really wanted to do that. So I was like, do me next. So they were like, okay, fine. So the girl that was doing, they do the talking part, where they get you to relax. Oh, you imagine you're on a beach and the waves and all that stuff. And um, I remember her talking, and then I remember everybody talking, and the whole group broke up from around me, and they were like, yeah, we're not playing this game anymore. And I asked my friend, what happened? And she was like, well, we did the meditation, and then we started chanting, light as a feather, stiff as a board. And we had 2 fingers under each of your feet and 2 fingers under each of your shoulders, and we lifted you up like 3 foot in the air. And then we put you down, and we didn't want to play anymore. And the mother of the Girl Scout at home, she was very Christian, so I was not welcome over there anymore. I was actually pretty much blacklisted from Girl Scouts at that point. But I'll never forget that I was like, that was cool. I was like in a trance. I can do that. So I started learning about hypnotism. I love using hypnotism. The meditation tomorrow night is very much hypnotism. So many weird conversations have come up tonight. We went through the reading, first of all. We ended up talking about poltergeist after ADD. And the second weird incident involved a Ouija board. I was in a girl's bedroom, and she had one. I'd always wanted one. My mom always told me I couldn't have one because they were evil. And I wanted one so freaking bad. I wanted a Ouija board so freaking bad. I would look for them everywhere, try to find one. I'd learned about them. I knew I wanted to use one. I'd been making my own on paper. And she would find them and she would get so mad. So I went over to a friend's house who had one, and I was like, I want to play this. And they were just like, okay, whatever, it never works, but okay. And it worked. And it was very much, it freaked out the girl. She didn't want to play anymore. So apparently I'm good at that too. Benna, hypnosis resistance is usually just based on the fear of losing your control or your identity in that situation. So some people just do not go down easily. But the people that do, there's a common misconception that means that they're susceptible, and they're actually not. They have all their control. You never lose control. You always have the ability to stop. I've been in trances before with hypnotists, and this was not a professional setting. This was a setting for BDSM. So the person was a professional, but it was not a professional setting. But we were supposed to be just playing. We weren't supposed to be getting into anything serious. And hello, thank you for joining. We're just randomly talking about stuff at this point. I did a reading earlier. I will do some live tarot, but anyway, yeah. I realized that during hypnosis, during the hypnosis with this person in particular, they were I could feel myself resisting. And once I became aware of that, it got really strong, and I started to bring myself to consciousness and heard that the person was basically trying to get me to say things to and about them that I just wasn't into saying. And it was just, I was very surprised at how quickly and easily I was able to regain control of my mind after feeling and knowing how deeply I can go under. That shocked me. And then ever since then, I've just lost all fear of it. I no longer fear it, just simply because um, I know that I can regain control over it. But if if you've undergone any kind of trauma, if you're dealing with any, mental health issues or anything along those lines, that's going to change how you're able to resist that. And it's not going to be, um, yeah. So yeah, the reading, the summary was basically we're pushing too hard and we're not enjoying the ride and we're not giving ourselves a chance to push outside our normal safety zone in order to see the next pieces of the bigger picture, to move forward. And that actually what we're supposed to be doing is stop resisting and stop pushing so hard, and instead just kind of see what it's trying to show you and teach you, and ride with it. So yeah. Oh, you avert your eyes. I see. I used to, when I tattooed, I would have people who would, be fighting me as I'm tattooing them, and I found that if I talked to them in a certain way, that I could get them to calm down and do some breathing with them, bring them into a more susceptible state, and then help them by teaching them that they don't have to feel that much if they don't want to, so. Right. It's a short version. When I'm done with the stream, you can listen to the full thing. I got started fairly quickly into that, and then moved on from there. So, I definitely, there's some streams that I'm gonna try to do later because I feel like a lot of people are just getting out of work, and I want people to be able to hear this stuff when they get home and not like miss half of it. But does anybody want any cards drawn while I'm here? I have the cards out. I just haven't been focusing on anyone in particular to draw. So I'm more than happy to, if there's a particular thing that you're looking for an answer to, just give me a little me. You don't have to tell me. Oh yes, fashionably late is good. It's that divine timing. Like, take notes. I take notes on the reading when I initially do it because I know by the time I start streaming, I'm gonna forget what I was initially impressing as I'm doing the cards. So I take the notes, but they're such a mess. They're so scribbly. There's not many words there that actually. But when I do my readings, I do it the same way. It's just way more. There's anyone coming into it soon? Tricky question. It's always so much more complicated than that, It's just like definitely tricky. But maybe that's what the original reading was talking about for you, because if you're looking for it, you're desiring it, you're pushing for it. You're not just accepting where you're at with the divine timing of things. And so that is actively working against the manifesting of what's coming forward. Sorry, I keep smacking my mic. So maybe that was for you also. The Hangman comes up again. Yeah. The Hangman. It can feel very frustrating to go forward and then go back, and then go forward and then go back. But what that Hangman is telling you is that the answer is actually in just letting go and accepting where you're at right now. We cannot make divine timing happen for like faster, and what you're specifically drawing to you for the relationship that you need, that's right for you, that's in alignment with you and in your vibrational match to, isn't right now. You know, it's just happening in a way that you're not seeing it. It doesn't mean it's not happening. It's absolutely happening. It's just we gotta wait till all that falls into place and it works its way to you, and then you're prepared and then you're ready for it. So we've got that one. And we've got the 5 of Cups. We're feeling some disappointment in someone in particular. There was somebody that you thought was right, and you're actually feeling really like let down by that whole thing. So this is a period of reevaluating, because sometimes we come across people that they feel like a good fit, but then they don't. That's not to help you determine what you want. That's to sometimes help you see what doesn't work for you. So yeah, definitely. And then the Sun, this is the manifesting right here. This is the hope and the bliss, the desire. Now I would put these 3 in order, with a past, present, future kind of a lineup, with the Sun being this expression of joy, and you have to know that what you're manifesting is working. You can't doubt it in any way. And when you're pining or you're wanting or desiring, you're doubting it, because you're like, well, I want this. It's like, oh, but I thought it was already happening for you. Don't you believe that? Well, yeah, I do. Okay, then why are you still waiting for it? Well, I just want it to happen. But so you don't believe it's gonna happen? It is happening. Like, so it's, yeah, we have to back up a little bit. And sometimes that, you know, that blockage is continued. Looking for some more messages on that specific subject, but I don't feel like they're in that deck. But I feel like this is a good message too, I think, because a lot of times we're trying to make our way in a life by feel, because we don't have anything else to go on. And this is about creating your own journey, building off of what you've learned. So maybe you didn't have a good example to emulate in relationships. Maybe the person that you're looking at was not that great in relationships. Maybe the relationships weren't ideal, or what you're seeing in the relationships wasn't healthy. But it's telling you to be the leader by being the example of, like, if you want a match, it wants you to be at that position already, which means that you don't need or want, you're waiting for, it's just coming. Like, you're just waiting for it to happen. So that's a good one. That's a good one. Sometimes I just like to pull cards too. And I feel like this one's always relevant. This one keeps me busy. This keeps me busy. The mouse spirit. Tending to the small things. Because the small things are the things that we usually will put aside because we don't want to mess with them. They seem insignificant. They're not big. It's not a big thing. I want to handle the big things. I want to dive right in. But sometimes the big things aren't ready, or it's too big and you need to actually break it off into smaller pieces. So tending to the small things, it's like, how does a mouse engage their surroundings, right? They're, first of all, they're not loud. They are not visible, but they are very busy. They're doing stuff that needs to be done. And it's all stuff that makes sense in the grand scheme of things. So they're not doing anything that's like wild and crazy. They're not dragging any attention. They're just doing the little things that need to be done. If you were in a relationship and you were living with somebody and that relationship was coming to an end, and you got this card would start talking about the fact that you need to start maybe moving some stuff out slowly but surely. Maybe you need to make sure you got your own bank account. Maybe you change some passwords. Yes, Mouse Spirit is neurodivergent friendly. It wants you to handle little tiny pieces at a time. You don't have to tackle the big chunks all at once. That's too overwhelming, and my executive dysfunction kicks in. So I tend to little things. But there's so many little things that can apply, because so say your manifestation is self-employment in some way, but you don't even have an office space area set up in your house yet. That would be one of the little things that you could do to push the next thing towards happening. That energy is that forward motion, and that action is believing that it's occurring. It's an action towards the manifestation. Now, it doesn't seem significant to an outside viewer, but those are some of the most important pieces. How can you take on that thing if you didn't do the steps to prepare for it? So yeah, sometimes packing. Sometimes I clean my house like I'm packing to move into a smaller space, because I find that that's how I declutter my house the best, is by pretending that I have only so many bins to pack my stuff in. And if I don't have a place to put it, how can I possibly take it with me? And in that same energy, I also leave situations and people behind that I can't possibly fit into the span of where I'm headed. There isn't a place where they fit any longer. And so sometimes I need to pick and choose what goes with me. And that doesn't mean, I think people talk about cutting off friendships, and they're like, oh, I had to cut that friendship off. And it's like, if it's toxic and dangerous, then yeah, that makes sense to actually cut it off. That's okay. But there's a lot of times I have relationships with people that last a period of time, and then they just kind of lessen in intensity, and I say, okay, well, that period of time has ended and I'm letting go of that. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be cool with a person anymore, or that I'm going to we're not friends anymore. It's just, I'm not going to try to reclaim a moment or an energy or a period of time that served its purpose. That it was what it was. We had that good month where we talked every day, and then now we're off and running doing our own thing again, and that's a good thing. So you accept that and you let that go. But that doesn't mean that you're have to cut it off to this this doesn't matter in my life anymore. Oh, it's still full of boxes. But you know what? Then maybe that's a part of that tending to the small things. Maybe the act of unpacking and reorganizing your space helps your mind get into a different place. Helps those little actions lead to a series of events that you could meet somebody along the line. You don't know. And that's the thing. We have to be open to those infinite possibilities. Like the starfish spirit says, we don't know what could happen. But if there's little small things in our life that have not been tended to, that we've been putting aside, now is the time to work on them. Now is the time to work on them. And focus on that, and not the need, want, relationship, who's next mentality, you're often, what you're going to find is while you're over here doing this, he creeps in, boom, I didn't even know where did he come from, kind of a thing, you know, like you could be at Home Depot buying some wall hangers, you know, to organize your living space and run into somebody. You don't know. You just have to kind of go. I toss a lot of my stuff on a regular basis. I do it because it feels stagnant. I like things to stay flowing. There's some things I've held on to since my childhood because they have a certain particular energy that I like, but I've been investing a lot in my work, so I've been upgrading a lot of my past things that I would like make work. Now I'm actually upgrading to stuff that like is properly utilized. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up shortly here. We'll be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's gonna be a little bit different. I am going to focus on teaching meditation, the first portion, which is not going to start until 10 p.m. Eastern because I want to catch more people. I want people to understand the different ways of meditating and what your goal actually is, because I think people get this impression of meditation and immediately think of like a Buddhist monk and like there's no way I can do that. Well, you're right. There's no way you can do that. Because monks spend a lot of time practicing. And that's not necessarily what they're doing. It's not necessarily this like act of clearing, but rather allowing of clearing. I'll get into that tomorrow. So tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern time is going to be Sunday night. That's going to be a regular thing. I think Sunday nights are going to be regular talks on relaxation, manifesting, meditation stuff. I want people to be able to wind down after the week/weekend and start Monday morning focused and a little bit more prepared emotionally and mentally, energy-wise, to get up and make shit happen. So Sunday nights, that's what that's going to be for. That's my whole goal with the Sunday night streams. And Wednesday nights are going to be usually probably topics. But I'd like to do more than just one tarot night a week. So right now I'm doing Saturday nights for tarot. But if there's any particular nights that are really good for you and you'd like to be able to pop in and have tarot cards drawn and discuss things, holler at me. I'll try to make things happen. There's a few nights I can't do it, but I'd like to do 3 to 4 a week, so that's my goal. That's the goal. And again, if anyone happens to be watching this later because it's getting down to the end, if you liked the stream, please follow and share it. I also have a YouTube channel. I will have to link that in my profile, but I would like all the views to come to Twitch for now, and then I'll just have the backup on YouTube. But I'll build the YouTube eventually later. Right now I'm working on one thing at a time, one step at a time. So if you happen to like it, if you know somebody who you think needs a reading, I do private readings as well. My email is up at the top, astralhealingNiki@gmail.com. But I'm also on social media under either NikiAnarchy, NikiAnarchy333, or astralhealingNiki. That's just about where I am everywhere. I try to keep it consistent. But I love you both very much. Thank you for joining. And anyone else who happens to check this later, thank you for joining me. I hope this reading provides some guidance and insight. If you did not catch it because you joined in halfway through, as soon as I stop the stream, you'll be able to watch it. So it'll be about 5 minutes after I leave the stream, and then I'll stop it, and then you can watch the whole thing. You can fast forward to the part you want. So, thank you for joining me. Have a great night.